Good evening. It's Fola with FolaVeritas.com. Just wanting to talk about my experience as a twin flame. I really don't like using the term, but like in outward phases, but I feel like it's time to do that. A lot of things have been shifting for me over the last few weeks. I've been talking about it quite a bit, this fear versus love. And it has had me really contemplate on my relationship with um, my twin flame. So right now we're kind of at a standstill. So if I get emotional, it's all good. But it's okay because this is just, I guess, that base. This is what needs to happen. I don't know if you've heard much about twin flames. Definitely suggest reading up on it. But the basis is that in creation, all those however long ago, there was a soul, and the soul was split into two, and one would be the masculine, one would be the feminine. Not necessarily like male and female, but it's like that balance between the two. And so throughout time, these souls meet on and off and come back together, and there's different stages, they say, in which they have to kind of play out this game, the game of love, perhaps I should call it. So yeah, it's a bit different than a soulmate. You can have multiple soulmates from what I understand, but twin flame, you have one. It's like both of you come together in the stages, and it is much more like intense emotional connection, emotional, physical, spiritual, the energetics between the two. It's literally like you've met yourself, just the polar opposite. If you can believe that. I honestly can't even explain how it makes sense, but it just does. And yeah, so some of the challenges are, as we all have this like negative self-talk that we're trying to change to more positive, learning to accept ourselves, learning to forgive ourselves, all that good stuff. Now you have another person who you feel so drawn to in all these various ways, who brings out like the best in you, and yet brings out the worst because they mirror everything back, all the horrible parts that you want to ignore. And it's easy to do what we do, which is victimization, and blame the other person for how we're feeling, blame the other person for what we're going through, not want to take any responsibility that perhaps it's our own stuff that we need to work through. I do see it like, at least in my experience, it's almost like both sides are going through the same theme, but maybe like either the exact same side of that theme or the polar opposite, where it might be more challenging for one over the other, because you both lived your life, usually in like it's like there's some similarities between the two of you, but overall, like, your life is quite different, right? Life experiences, and yet you can find like these similarities between you in like terms of what your interests are. Like for me and my twin flame, a lot of it was music and like spirituality, which is so beautiful because my whole life I'm like, oh, I just want to find someone who like I can lay in bed with post coital and like discuss spirituality, and but like, I've had relationships where I have been able to discuss spirituality, but it was just like this deeper knowing. It's like you just like knew so much more. And like, but the other beauty of it all is that you like each knew what the other one was thinking, sometimes telepathically, but those were like random things primarily, like both people wanting to use the washroom at the same time and like stating it out loud at the exact moment, which is just more a joke in my opinion and fun. But sometimes like saying less was more, and that's amazing, right? So anyway, I'm kind of losing my train of thought. Love. So yeah. So the mirroring, for me, that's been the challenge. I can feel my heart kind of like jump with like hit a wall. Like, no, mirror. What are you talking about? You haven't done anything. There's nothing you need to fix. But like, yeah, there are things that need to be fixed. There are things that can always be moving forward, better understood within myself. The main thing I found that I've learned since the like year and like 4 months since having met my twin flame is that this coming from this place of neutrality when it comes to the emotions, right? Which, yeah, like sometimes, trust me, I want to lose my shit. Like, which I think is a human reaction. It's okay. But when it becomes something that is impacting a relationship, then that needs to change. And I think the thing that worked the most for me was meditating, lots of journaling, really doing the work to try and figure out the reasons why I am the way I am and think and respond the way I do. So, like, shamanism has helped quite a bit with that because there's so much that, like, I had no idea my behaviors until, like, really digging deep and having, like, spirit speak those things to me, or, like, my higher self, like, share that. And it was just these aha moments, like, what the fuck? I can't believe that this is something I've been doing. So definitely encourage you to look into whatever it is that brings you, walking through nature can bring you those insights, like, but just be willing to confront those behaviors, right? Like, be willing to be like, okay, I notice I'm doing this. Like, the awareness is number one, and then wanting to make the change. Like, nothing's going to change if you're not willing to make the change. So, that's important. And just know, like, and I honestly, so right now, my twin, his name's David, we're not talking. So, um, this has happened quite a few times. Uh, I smile because it's funny. Like, I expect it to happen, and yet every time it does, it's like, what does this mean for me as a person? And this most recent time, it's really led me to question where I was in terms of relationships. And it's funny, the day following our like basically ending it, his ending it, my ending it. I don't know. Is there really any difference? Like, but I was driving and I kept seeing like wedding, 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 and like just my eyes would be drawn to couples walking down the road or like people kissing and all this stuff. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like, here I am driving my car, like coming to tears every once in a while. I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, thanks, universe. This is so nice. Thank you for like shoving this idea of like union in my face when I'm like most separated from the person that I feel I should be most connected to. And yet I guess that's kind of the irony, is that even though there's a separation, there really is no separation. Non-duality. So that's the beauty, is like the whole relationship helps you to uncover things within yourself and move forward to this place where then you're okay with being with yourself, which has been a huge like learning point for me over the last like 2 weeks. Just like being able to sit, be still in my own skin, no music, no reading, no learning. Um, but I see the benefits, right? So like right now, it's like part of me is like so saddened and hurt, and yet this other part of me is like seeing things that, and I just know this because it's happened in the past when we've separated for that time. Both of us then are like accomplishing the things that we're supposed to do. Um, he's a writer, so like I notice like him writing, and yes, I stalk him sometimes. Whatever, okay. Um, he's a good writer, but yeah. Anyway, it's just I believe us having the separation is going to allow us to come back together, do the things that we are meant to do together, because that's a huge role with the twin flame relationship is like your passions, your purpose is to do this thing together. And that's something we would talk about since the beginning, before we even really knew kind of what was going on. Like, um, but it's still, it's like deep down, I'm just trusting, even if that's like doesn't happen maybe in this life, if it doesn't happen like tomorrow, if it doesn't happen in like 10 years, I trust that no matter what, like I just want him to be happy. I want him to do the things he needs to do and the reason why he's here. And yet I still like just see all the possibilities and all the things that are going to happen or supposed to be happening for us together. Or maybe like the passions we both have will occur separately, but at the same kind of like along the same time, right? Like maybe in like 50 years, we'll both have done relatively the same thing and had the same like goals met and the gains or like whatever we've manifested. Um, but in my opinion, it's still fun to have that person with you. So I'm working on that. Okay. Um, so yeah, the union, I think, is the beautiful part. We've had that. We've had both separation and union, and so I see that both are possible, and now it's a matter of what I choose. And it'll be a matter of what he chooses. And I just suggest if you're going through this sort of situation, just focus on forgiving yourself, like forgiving the person. Don't hold any grudges, don't hold anything. Continue to work on yourself, like, and trust and like pray that, spirit's gonna help both of you to get to where you need to go. And that's all you can really do. So, anyway, that's my discussion on twin flames. There's some really, really good people who talk about twin flames. If you look on YouTube, I might put a couple that I've enjoyed watching and that do quite a lot of like work with people regarding this, because honestly, I think it's good to like talk to someone, especially if like maybe one person isn't really that spiritual. I've seen that on some of the groups I'm in, or like these spiritual communities where it's like one person gets it and their partner's like totally run and like doesn't want anything to do with them because they can't handle like the energetics of the relationship, right? It's like so deep and like so intense that it does, like, sometimes it's like, what the fuck am I doing here? Like, there's no way. I don't want to like go into that place of like unconditional deep love, of like nothing that you've ever experienced in your life that you can remember. Maybe some of you can, but that's pretty cool if you can. So yeah, but I will sign off now because I think this is a little long of a video, and I hope you have a good night. Bye.